Today we continue to listen the Four Noble Truths. You can find these Four Noble Truths in Masatipatthana Sutta and Dhammacakka Pavattana Sutta, the first sermon. Now from Masatipatthana Sutta, Dhammanupassana, Sijababa, we have to recite the first and second Noble Truth. So first you need to listen my recitation. Katami Javekwe Dukha Ariya Sija, Jatipi Dukha, Charavi Dukha, Maranambi Dukha, Sokabri Dewa Dukha, Domana Subhaya Sabi Dukha, Apiyehi Samyogopi Dukha, Piyehi Wipyogopi Dukha, Yampeja Nalabati, Dampi Dukha, Sankete Napinju Bada Nekanda Dukha. Altogether 12 kinds of dukkha, 12 kinds of suffering. And the Buddha continued the second noble truth of origin of suffering. Katavinja bhikkhave dukkha samudaya ariya sicam. Ya yantana pono bhavika. Nandi raga sagata tatra tatra binandini. Sayatidam kamatana bhavatana vibhavatana. So we choose the suitable Pali text, so we recite together. Kataminja bhikkhave dukkha sijam Jativi dukkha Charabi dukkha Maranambi dukkha Soka Paridewa dukkha Domana Subhaya Sabi dukkha Abhiyehi Samyogopi dukkha Piyehi Vipyogopi dukkha Yampeja Nalabati Dampi dukkha Sanketena Pinju Bada Nekanda dukkha Kataminja bhikkhave dukkha samudaya ariya sijam Yayantana pono bhavika Nandi raga sagata tatra tatra vinandini Sayatidam kamatana bhavatana vibhavatana. So translation, can you follow me? And what bhikkhus is the noble truth of suffering? Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and excessive despair are suffering. Association with the disliked is suffering. Separation from the liked is suffering. Not to get what one wishes, that also is suffering. In brief, the 5 aggregates of clinging are suffering. And what bhikkhus is the noble truth of the origin of suffering? It is that craving which gives rise to further rebirth and bound up with pleasure and lust, finds ever fresh delight, now here, now there, to wit, the sensual craving, the craving for existence, and the craving for non-existence. So there are four noble truths: dukkha sacca, the truth of suffering; samudaya sacca, the truth of the origin of suffering; nirodha sacca, the truth of the cessation of suffering; and the last one, magga sacca, the truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Magga sacca or dukkha nirodha gamini patipada ariya sacca. After defining the truth of suffering, which Buddha had personally discovered by his penetrative insight knowledge, he went on giving the definition of the truth of origin of suffering, the cause of suffering. So how Buddha explained what is the cause of suffering. Bhikkhus, what is the noble truth concerning the origin of suffering, or the truth which noble ones should know? We understand the truth of suffering. We understand aging suffering, sickness suffering, disease suffering, death is suffering, we understand, but fully understood by only Buddha and Arahant. So dukkha samudaya ariya sacca. Noble ones should know the origin of suffering completely. So what Buddha mentioned, there is this hunger, this craving, which give rise to fresh rebirth and is bound up with pleasure and attachment, or has the nature of pleasure and attachment, seeks delight, finds gratification now here, now there, everywhere. What is this tanha? What is this craving? So three kinds of craving Buddha mentioned: kama tanha, sensual craving, desire for enjoyment or sensual pleasures; bhava, craving for eternal existence, holding the eternity belief; vibhava, craving for non-existence, believing that there is nothing after death. So these three kinds of craving are the truth of the origin of suffering. So the truth of the origin of suffering, that is craving, it is the causal agency responsible for all kinds of suffering. All kinds of suffering, starting from the suffering of fresh becoming, rebirth, to suffering of the five aggregates of clinging. So we want to eliminate these suffering. What we have to do to eliminate these suffering, it is essential to know the cause of suffering. It is like making a diagnosis to know the cause of an ailment so that the disease may be cured. Buddha had personally penetrated to this truth of the cause of suffering and had consequently entirely eradicated suffering by removing its cause. So that samudaya sicca, the origin of suffering, is craving for hunger. It is like feeling thirsty or hungry. Thirst and hunger for sense object. Yayantana Ponabhavika, this craving for sense objects give rise to fresh becoming. So long as the person remains in the grip of this craving, continuous rebirth will take place, continuous suffering will take place. Nandiraga Sakata. This craving finds pleasure in sense objects and clings to them. Like oil or dye solution remains absorbed on any surface, it happens to come into contact. Craving is delighted with seemingly pleasant sense objects and holds on to them tenaciously. Tatra Tatra Binandini, Buddha said, this craving finds gratification here, there, everywhere. There's never any boredom or monotony in the pursuit of sensual pleasures. Any seemingly pleasurable sense object, wherever it presents itself, gives delight. In the human world, life in the lower structure of society may be anything but attractive or pleasant to people of higher station. Unfortunately, there are people who are born into poor circumstances, still enjoying their lives wherever they may be. In the same way, to the human mind, animal life is unpleasurable, repulsive, horrible. To assume the physical body of a snake or an insect is an abominable thought for a human being. Yet, if rebirth takes place in an animal world, that being is quite pleased with his physical body and finds delight in its life. It is because of the nature of tanha, craving, which finds gratification in every existence, in every sense object, wherever it may be. So Buddha had described tanha as finding pleasure here, there, in every existence, in every sense object. So there was a story of the Sampaya King Naga. In one existence, our Bodhisattva was born into a poor family in the vicinity of the river Sampa. One day, that poor man saw the king and the town people were honoring the Naga king lavishly. So that poor man, envious of the life of pleasure enjoyed by the Sampiyan Naga king. So if you wish the life pleasure enjoyed by the Naga king, what you need to do, you need to do merits. So Bodhisattva engaged himself in the good deeds. He performed charity, and he observed moral precepts, etc. As a result, when Bodhisattva passed away, he was reborn spontaneously in the realms of Nagas and found himself seated on the throne of the Sampaya Naga king in the full shape and form of a Naga being. So Naga is a species of snake. To be reborn as a snake from the human existence is really frightful and abominable. So Bodhisattva looked at his repulsive, horrible new form, and he reflected in this way. As a result of my good deeds of charity and observance of morality, I could have been reborn in any of the 6 celestial realms, but because I had wished for the pleasures of Naga king, I am reborn into these worlds of reptiles. To die would be better than to live the life of a snake. So he even played with the idea of committing suicide. So at that time, a young Naga female by the name of Thuzana gave signal to other young Naga females to commence entertaining their new king. The young Naga females assumed the appearance of beautiful devis and goddesses, and they started singing and dancing and playing various musical instruments. So Sampaya Naga king saw the beautiful goddesses entertaining him with song, dance, and music. Then he imagined his Naga abode to be the palace of the kings of celestial realms, and he felt very pleased. By the power of Tana, he felt very pleased. He also took on the appearance of God himself, and he joined the female Nagas in their revelry with much delight. So in the beginning, he felt very pleased, but he was Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva easily regained the sense of reality. And then he decided to get out of this horrible life. So he resolved to be born again as a human being so that he could further promote his parami perfection, the virtuous qualities of almsgiving, keeping precepts, etc. So in pursuance of this resolution, the Sambiya Naga king later came to the human world and sought solitude in the forest and kept observant sila, kept observant of the moral precepts. But the point we wish to make in this story of Sambiya Naga king is that from the human point of view, the body of a reptile is horrible and repulsive. So at the initial stage of the Naga life, the Bodhisattva also viewed his new life with horror and revulsion. But the size of the attractive female Nagas brought about a change in his outlook, which kept him reveling and delighting in the Naga existence, as if it were the home of celestial beings. So it is dana, it is craving, which seeks delight here, there, everywhere, rebirth take place, that made the Bodhisattva enjoy his Naga life. And there was also the wish he had made while he was a poor man in the human world for the pleasurable life of Naga king. This wish or craving was also dana, which landed him in the realms of Nagas in accordance with the words Buddha said, Yayantana Pono Bhavika. This dana ever finds fresh delight, finds pleasure here, there, in every existence, sense object. So this second noble truth is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. It is why there is this suffering, or why there are all these beings, why there is rebirth, why there is aging, why there is death. And the second noble truth is the noble truth of the cause of suffering. So Buddha said, second noble truth is the cause of suffering. It is dust, it is dana, the cause of dukkha, the cause of suffering. So Buddha described it as that which gives rise to fresh rebirth, as that which causes rebirth, So long as there is craving, there will always be rebirth. In the future, there will come suffering. So the second noble truth is actually not easy to see. Actually, we do not see that craving is the cause of suffering, craving is the cause of rebirth. Why? We do not see. We do not see that craving is the cause of suffering, craving is the cause of rebirth. That is because we do not possess the knowledge which the Buddha possessed. So we take it on faith, what the Buddha said. What the Buddha said that craving is the cause of suffering. We have faith, so we believe. Buddha said that craving is the cause of suffering, that craving is the cause of rebirth. We have no way of knowing that craving causes rebirth. That means we do not have undeniable proof. However, there are some ways to accept or to guess that there must be something called rebirth, or there must be multiplicity of births. Every now and then, we encounter persons who are prodigies, who are genius. For example, a 4-year-old boy can play very intricate music and something like that. That 4-year-old boy has not received any music lessons at all in his life. If we look for the cause of this ability, we will have to go back to another life, because we cannot find any cause in this life that he should be able to play such intricate music. So we have to go beyond this life into past life. He might have acquired a very great talent in his past life, and that was passed on into the present life. So he was able to play such intricate music without being taught when he was very young. Also, there are people who can compete with calculators, doing mathematical problems. This scale cannot be achieved in one life only. When we see them, we can guess that there must have been something before this birth in which they must have gained this ability to play an instrument or to calculate mathematical formulas. So in this way, we can guess that there is not just this one life, but there must be lives in the past. And if there were lives in the past, and there is life here, then there must be lives in the future. So in this way, we can guess that there is not just this one life. There must have been lives in the past, and there will be lives in the future. Then there are people who can remember their past lives. So in the Eastern countries, they are accepted. But here also more and more people come up and talk about their experience in past lives. Such people are more and more accepted. Although they have to be very careful in making their experiences known to the public. So if you cannot remember your past lives, you may or you may not accept that there is multiplicity of lives. If you remember your past lives, then nobody or nothing can prevent you from accepting that. On faith, at least we accept that there is multiplicity of lives. Also we accept that life everywhere is suffering, and that this life or this suffering is caused by craving. So three kinds of craving. The first is craving for sense object, craving for things we see or we experience in the world. And this craving has the ability to produce results in the future. So when a person approaches death, some karma he or she did in the past, or sometimes karma nimitta, an instrument he or she did in performing that karma, or sometimes gati nimitta, signs of his next life, appears to his or her mind. If one of those appears to his or her mind, then his mind grabs at those objects. And when there is grasping, there is craving. So with this craving, he or she dies, and as a result of that craving, there is a rebirth, or there is a resultant consciousness which arises in the next life. So when there is craving, there is rebirth. When there is tanha, there is jati. There is bhava. So the first is craving for sense objects. And the second is a craving accompanied by eternalist view. There are people who believe that there is something like a soul in us, or there is something permanent entity. Although our bodies will disintegrate at death, the soul is permanent. So it will go to another body and another body and another body, just like a bird goes from one tree to another. The craving accompanied by that kinds of belief is called craving accompanied by eternalist view. So that is the second kind of craving. Bhavatana. And there are some people who believe there's no life in the past. There's no life in the future. This is the only life that we have. At the end of this life, everything will be annihilated. Nothing will come out of this life. No rebirth or whatever. So craving accompanying that view is called craving accompanied by annihilationist view. So it is the third kinds of craving. That craving will also cause a rebirth. Although these people don't believe in rebirth, they believe in this present life. So they are attached to this present life, and they are attached to the objects of this life. They are attached to the present object in this life. So they will want to enjoy the pleasure in this present life as much as they can, and they have a strong desire, strong craving for the things in this life. So this strong craving will definitely cause their rebirth, whether they believe in rebirth or not, whether they want to be reborn or not. So any kinds of craving, whether the craving for sense object or craving accompanied by eternity view or craving accompanied by annihilationist view, all these craving will produce rebirth in the future. So Buddha described it as craving which gives rise to rebirth. This craving is said to be the origin of suffering. Craving is the cause of suffering, which is the first noble truth. So now we have two noble truths. The first noble truth is the noble truth of suffering, dukkha sacca, and the second is the cause of suffering, samudaya sacca, which is craving, which is thirst, which is attachment. Actually, when we say craving is the second noble truth, we also means ignorance, avijja. It is because ignorance always accompanies craving. If there is no ignorance, there can be no craving. So we are ignorant of the true nature of Namarupa. So we tend to be attached to things, we tend to attach to persons. If there were no ignorance, if there were no avijja, and we were to see namarupa, we see things as they really are, we would not be attached to anything. So when we say the second noble truth is craving, we mean craving along with ignorance or along with delusion. So avijja and tanha, delusion and craving are those that create these rounds of suffering, rounds of rebirth. So tanha is thirst for sense objects such as visible objects, sound, and so on. For example, we feel thirsty and we want to drink water and we cannot satisfy our thirst once and for all. However much water we drink, we will again become thirsty and want to drink again and again. So the mental state tanha is like this thirst. It is translated as craving because it craves for things, craves for these things, craves for that things, and so on. So it is simply the mental state called lobha among the 52 mental factors. Lobha is attachment to sense objects, and so it is tanha. Raga, another word for tanha, meaning stain or dye. Tanha is called raga, stain or dye, because when there is raga, our mind is stained. Once there is a stain or the dye, it is very difficult to get rid of it. And the opposite word of raga is viraga. Viraga is translated as fading away, but actually it is disappearance of the dye or color, because when meditators reach the fourth stage of enlightenment, the raga is totally eradicated. So how many kinds of tanha? How many kinds of sense object? 6 sense object. Corresponding to the 6 kinds of sense object, there is 6 kinds of tanha: rupa tanha, saddha tanha, gandha tanha, rasa tanha, putava tanha, and dhamma tanha. So thirst for visible object, thirst for audible objects or sound, thirst for smell, thirst for taste, thirst for touch, and all the rest, Dhamma tanha. So Dhamma tanha means thirst for Dhamma object. So what are the Dhamma objects? There are many Dhamma objects, 5 sensitivities, pasada rupa, and 89 consciousness and 52 mental states, etc. These are Dhamma tanha. And then 3 kinds of tanha: kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. In the word vibhava, we mean we has a negative meaning. So vibhava means non-bhava, which means destructions of bhava or annihilation. So Vibhava Tanna is the Tanna associated with the view that beings are just annihilated at death and there is no rebirth for them. In this view, things are destroyed once and for all without leaving any effect behind. When the thirst for rupa, when the thirst for visible object, for example, arises together with the kinds of view, taking beings to be annihilated at death, then that is called vibhavatana. So thirst for object of desire, kamatana, itself is taken as bhavatana. So if it is based on the eternity view and is and as vibhavatana, if it is associated with the annihilation view. So this is the correct interpretation of these three kinds of dana. But some even translate vibhavatana as craving for self-annihilation. At one time, our late Venerable Sayādaw Usilananda gave a book on Buddhism to a man, and later that man came to Sayādaw Usilananda and said, Bande, Buddhism recognized suicide? And Sayadaw Usilananda was surprised and wondered where you got this idea. Sayadaw Usilananda asked that man why he said so. Then that man referred to a translation of the first sermon where these three types of dana are mentioned. He said, the Sutta says, craving for self-annihilation means craving for suicide or something like that. So people can get a very wrong idea from these translations. So it is very important to have a knowledgeable teacher to correct wrong understanding of the teaching of the Buddha. So now you know, you understand the six basic kinds of dana. That's for visible object, sound, smell, taste, touch, and dhamma. There is 6 basic kinds of dana. So this can be divided into kamatana, bhavatana, and vibhavatana. So now how many dana you have? 6 kinds of dana. And then kamatana, bhavatana, vibhavatana. 6 multiplied by 3, there is 18 kinds of dana. And they arise in our mind, internal dana, as well as in other people's mind, external dana. So 18 multiplied by 2, there are 36 kinds. Again, they each belong to the past, belongs to the future, belongs to the present, and belongs to the future. So 36 multiplied by 3, Altogether, there are 108 kinds of dana. So you can find this number mentioned in the Pali Canon and the commentaries, but now how to get to 108 dana is rarely explains. So we need to be familiar how dana gets this number 108. So when you study Paticcasamuppada, you understand the relationship between Vedana and Tanha, Vedana Picca Tanha, dependent on feeling, craving arises. Vedana Picca Tanha. Does the link Vedana Picca Tanha means that we just crave for any kinds of feeling? The commentary says there is only one relation, and that is relation for decisive support. In this case, only pleasant feeling is to be taken as Vedana, because normally craving can arise, desire can arise only for pleasurable feeling. However, the link is just Vedana Picca Tanha in general. It doesn't say Sukha Vedana Picca Tanha. So the commentary explained this way: a person in pain longs for pleasure. A person in pleasure longs for better. And neutral feeling, since it is peaceful, is included in pleasure. So a person who is experiencing neutral feeling also longs for more and better. So all three kinds of feelings are a condition for tanha, craving. So this is all three kinds of feelings are a condition for tanha. That is how tanha is conditioned, not only by pleasant feeling, but also neutral feeling and unpleasant feelings. It is not that we are craving the unpleasant feeling, but craving for something opposite of it. For instance, sometimes the weather very hot. So when we feel hot, what was in our mind, if meditation is not good, we cannot practice very well. We stay noting hot. So our craving for getting cool or getting out of this heat is conditioned by the unpleasant feeling we have at that time. So tanha, craving, can be conditioned by unpleasant feelings. So when the weather is hot, tanha comes, We wanted the cooling temperature. So that is how Tanha is conditioned by unpleasant feeling. Then neutral feeling, since neutral feeling is close to pleasant feeling, we want something more and better. So neutral feeling is also a condition for Tanha, craving. So dependent on all three kinds of feeling, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling, there arises craving. There arises thirst or craving. And the commentary said, although feeling is the condition for craving, craving cannot arise from the feeling of a perfect Arahant who is free of inherent tendency. The commentary said, it is true that feeling is a condition for craving, but craving cannot arise to those who have eradicated the inherent tendency for mental defilements. So this is a very good statement for us because it points out a way to break the weeds of life, and the craving Tanha will not arise. So we have to practice meditation very thoroughly and diligently so that we will understand the true nature of feeling, and then there will not arise Tanha. So next time we will continue second noble truth. Today we have to stop our discourse for today. By practicing vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses, may all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future.